Welcome back, everyone, to the expert panel. Rogue has evened out the series. It is now 1-1, so they came back in that second game, and we're going to go all over that. I do want to start with picks and bans and a topic that we've seen come up in these two games, actually. Ender, you want to talk about the Mana Mune and kind of what we're missing in why it's coming up.
Yeah. So this is, of course, going to be the Man Mune into Mirror Mana upgrade on the Corki. We also saw Hans build it on the Draven in the last game, and honestly, this looks very surprising to a lot of people because we haven't seen any super recent changes that have made this pop up to popularity. But the change to Presence of Mind in the off season that increases your maximum mana by up to 500 means that you can pair this item with the Mirror Mana, with Presence of Mind, with Trinity Force that also gives you mana, and you get insane numbers. This Corki at 30 minutes of the game had 89 AD coming from the Mirror Mana, which is more than any other item in the game. For context, Infinity Edge is going to give you 80 total attack damage, and also he was doing 80 damage on hit from the passive from the item as well. So it can be very, very powerful on some of these scaling champions, and keep in mind, it's only going to get amped even further on the crits from Infinity Edge damage as well.
I think speaking about scaling, Mana Mune on Corki is wonderful. Always in compositions like these two that we saw today, is that you compare the scaling, right? Both compositions are heavily on the scaling. You have the Ornn, but you have to look at the key pieces, which is, of course, the itemization. If you look at Misfits composition, it forces you to think about Mercury right off the bat. You need to think of the tenacity. You have a good mixture of damage, while on the other side, while the scaling is good with the Ornn and the Corki, Leeson into tanks, into Azir, into Tamkens, you're going to be having a really hard time in order to impact that. And on top of that, when we think of the itemization, Ninja Tabi, really insane against Corki and the Xayah. Randuin's Omen, very insane against the Xayah and the Corki. Itemization is much easier for Rogue's side, and that is something that is always going to matter in those late game teamfights that we saw.
Yeah, and it's nice that you highlight that it's never just about one thing, right? And that's why we often highlight preparation as well. It's about thinking about that draft versus the opponent, the specific itemization, depending on the draft and the state of the game, but also execution. And I think in the first game, we saw misexecution from Rogue and great execution and follow-up from Misfits. This time around, in the early game, Rogue had a much better time.
I think we saw in this game, the options and the key fix from last game. We see this 2v2 on bottom side. We talked about options. The Renekton is strong when you have a different side of the map that is scaling. Rogue were playing to it, and Misfits went into these old habits of playing through Dan Dan, playing through topside when they really shouldn't. Forcing 2v2 against Sejuani Renekton when you're leasing an Ornn is honestly just suicide. So we saw good habits from Rogue, bad habits from Misfits showing up there, and it's very important to highlight that Rogue had things to play through, and I felt like Misfit really didn't have that in the early game, and that gives more options for Rogue to kind of create that lead onto that Renekton.
Right, and these were two drafts that felt like they were going to scale very well, like both sides sort of towards the mid to late game into those 5 versus 5s. But as soon as Renekton, in an already very good matchup, is going to get a couple of kills thrown his way, all of a sudden you saw the CS lead balloon out of control. He's, having free reign over side lanes. And I like to think that because of the teleport buffs as well, that give you that super home guard coming off of the TPs, that Renekton's team fighting actually got slightly buffed a couple of patches ago with that changes. It's because Renekton's problem is that he's going to get kited out when he's trying to go into team fights. It's not his damage. His damage is always going to be good, but if his target access is going to be higher with those TP plays, well, you saw in some of those fights, the backline just could not run away from this man.
That's an epic observation, I think, Ender, because we always say, well, you got to be far ahead because Ornn is always going to have such a big team fight presence. But with that kind of extra help from that TP change, we saw that Renekton could take over the game. Now, you say he can get into fights easily. It helps if the enemy AD carry positions awkwardly as well. Let's take a look at this Drake fight because we were singing Bvoy's praises, and he did a bit of an upset, I think, in this game as well, which helped Rogue even more.
Yeah, so this fight was really uncomfortable for Misfits right off the bat because you can sort of see, they're trying to group up and go for the fight, but as soon as the counter engage comes in from Rogue, Bvoy's just in the front. Where's the rest of his team? They were all stuck over inside of their jungle trying to get around that wall. He was just way too far forward, and as soon as he gets blown up, the team fight's just gone.
Like that was super awkward for many reasons because like they started off the Drake and then they got split up, and when you're not in the same position you kind of need to regather yourself, and they kept forcing the dragon, and I think they just forgot that ocean Drake bush existed, because the whole rogue lineup came out of it and Bvoy was just standing there ready to give him a big ol' hug.
And as in many cases, like also yesterday with the upset out of position, it's also kind of a consequence of the game state and of the entire team state, right? It's never that one person. I mean, sometimes it is that one person being out of position. But you saw that Misfits was caught between a rock and a hard place and a lot of bushes, of which Rogue could take advantage. But I do have to commend Rogue for, just like Misfits in Game 1, when they had the upper hand, they were able to push through, and they didn't waver, basically, in their pushing through, which is commendable for a team in playoffs.
Absolutely. This team was able to, go for the fight, set them up, especially that final fight where they were able to collapse around from behind and, sort of pincer off Misfits after they'd already caught them out of position. It just goes to show that this team is good at the team fights. We were sort of singing their praises before the games. We're like, they can do a little bit of everything, but I think almost their bread and butter does come down to these later game situations where they can attack in the 5v5 quite well. And I think that you were sort of talking a little bit about the bot lane Bvoy getting caught out, comparing to Upset earlier as well. I think that's a little bit of a consequence of the role, quite frankly. You're a super high DPS champion that's very susceptible to getting caught out. So in these high pressure moments, especially in playoffs, your positioning has to be perfect, otherwise you get punished, and that's sort of what happened a couple times throughout this game.
We just saw two different looks from the teams. One game where Misfits ran away from the game after a successful early game. The second where things were taken a bit slower, and it seems like that is more of Rogue's comfort zone. What is Misfits' optimal strategy now to come back? Is it to put the pedal to the metal and try and accelerate the game state from earlier on and push it into Misfits' comfort zone, or what would you recommend?
I feel like I'm just going to reiterate the same point as before. I think Rogue had a very well-rounded composition that was exactly in their wheelhouse. In their victories in the regular season against Misfits, it was these games that were very dragged out. They had the Ezreal Yuumi win when they just outscaled the enemy, when the enemy composition was kind of wonky and all over the place. I think Misfits need to go back to the roots. Playing through bottom is still a big question mark. I think they can gain advantages by attacking Finn, and then through that advantage being the team that wins the split push, because I think that's where Misfits usually get their advantages. This is not it. They are trying to play Rogue's game. Rogue is just better at their own game, naturally.
Yeah, I also think, controlling around mid lane, the sort of strategy that Rogue is going to be going for. I like to see Febiven on something that is maybe a little bit more powerful early on for making moves with the rest of his team too. You win through mid lane first and then spread it out towards top, towards bot. That's my plan.
All right, let's see. After the break, we will get some insight from Rogue's performance coach as they look to keep this momentum going into Game 3.
taking the time to join me today.
Thank you so much to you.
Well, during the last 2 weeks of the regular season, we saw a lot less convincing version of Rogue, if I may say. How did you address this and work with the team to come and be ready in the final form today?
Yeah, definitely the last 2 weeks of the regular season weren't as fortunate as we want them to be. We were very, very well prepared for the week that LEC was cancelled.
Yeah.
So, that was very, very unfortunate. So we were super prepared for G2 and Fnatic. And of course, from there, everything started just in the direction of uncertainty, right? So we lost the last 4 games. So we had to address it in the way of being aware of what is happening. Of course, with all the issues right now that we are facing with quarantine and playing online. Yeah. So we had to think where is our focus? So from the kind of mindset or the mental side, we bring a little more kind of approaches of mindfulness, so being aware of what's happening, how to focus on those things, what are the most important things at the moment, now trying to adapt to kind of the newest stage, which is our offices, which is completely different than playing on the studio.
Yeah, so, that makes sense.
Yeah, so definitely maintaining routines, but at the same time trying to adapt and being flexible and accepting what is happening, really.
And it's one thing that many teams have been talking about, the fact that you have to channel the stage energy at the gaming house. So it was something you had to work on. So tell me about working on this and how did you manage to make the team better in this setup?
Well, we try different approaches, looking into how to play online, because playing face-to-face is completely different, especially for players who the stress that kind of comes into playing on a stage is more useful. So it is kind of, like you say, channeling this stress. So of course they needed to learn, and we needed to learn how to channel this stress and how to put it in a scrim setting, basically. So we tried to integrate or kind of maintain some of these routines that we've been having all year long, but now trying to accept okay, we have to play where we usually play every single day, and then from there trying to build that trust and building that kind of synergy again from a situation that, well, we have to try our best in the last couple of weeks. So yes, it hasn't been easy, but at the same time everyone is giving their best to put themselves into kind of the perspective we have to play online, which is not the best approach.
I agree. We all have to make the best out of a difficult situation, if I may say. But there's also another element when it comes to the format and the fact that Rogue is playing on the lower part of the bracket, so there's no safety net, the same way Fnatic or G2 could have one, in a way. Is it something the players know about, and is it something you were working on coming into this series today, the fact that they have to perform at their best because there won't be any second chance here?
Yeah, the approach never changed in terms of the mindset, what they want to kind of show during the games. Of course, we knew they were very aware that we're playing in these lower brackets, so they are very aware of it, and they've been trying their best in every single game, but adjusting to this new setup, it's a little bit, it takes a little bit of time, but then at the same time, I think it is not any excuse or anything like that, but it's something that you need to be aware of. So we maintain the routines. We try to even work a little bit, not a little bit, work even harder. So they are very committed to try to give their best.
And they already did, bouncing back from game one. And it leads me to my last question, focusing on this series now, because the first game was pretty one-sided in favor of Misfits. And we know how important it is to reset your mindset in these situations. So tell me about approaching this series when it comes to be mentally prepared to bounce back from a severe loss, just like they did right now.
Yeah, I think the best of 5 is all about adaptation and flexibility. So what happened during the after the second game was just to try to recognize what are the patterns of the opponent team of Misfits, and then from there trying to see from the mindset point of view, looking into kind of listening to the comms and trying to look after the game how they're feeling, how they are behaving, because there is lots of stress, but they don't realize how they're behaving. So from my side, from my second side, from my second kind of point of view, it is easier to try to understand how they're feeling. So from there, like kind of we just implement another of the routines that kind of prepare them and get them into the right mindset to, okay, now this is the third game and then we need to perform.
And it looks like they bounced back already. Ismail, thank you very much for your answers and insights about this Rogue team. And I'm going to give it back to the casters for Game 3.
Thank you.
Always interesting to hear about the work behind the scenes for Rogue, especially in this very unique point in time. We're already into the thick of picking bands. I'm still Draco, so I'm still joined by FLICKR, and it's Syndra and Senna taken away. But as you heard, routines, the name of the game for Rogue.
I actually didn't get to hear. Is that what he said?
Yeah, he said, he's like, we got a routine for this. And she's like, how does this affect you? He's like, we got a different routine for that. He's like, how does this one affect you? A third routine for that specific thing. So,
I'm not surprised that Rogue have like plan A, plan B, plan D. Like, it just keeps going.
And that's just for the mental portion. That's not even for the in-game. So there's got to be like at least triple the amount of plans. We'll see, I guess, what the adaptations are going to look like. Because Rogue are back on the red side. The Kalista is going to get taken away. They don't want to give that first pick up to Bvoy. And the Yuumi ban has reared its head once again on the side of Misfits.
So we are straying a bit from the ban, still holding true to the fact that Misfits are banning Syndra from both sides. Curious kind of, the respect to Finn, banning away the Renekton. Don't want to see that again. I believe his stats last game were ridiculous on the champion.
Absolutely were. I'm not going to tell you that we had a graphic prep. We definitely did. It was very gross. He received almost no jungle attention compared to his opponent and was up just so much gold, so much CS. It was absolutely disgusting, but it looks like Misfits are taking a page from the Rogue book. A lot of 80 carries banned and taken away, and that means the Aphelios will go into the hands of Bvoy, one of his most successful picks.
Yeah, Aphelios continues to be kind of the high priority first pick as soon as Senna and Kalista and Syndra are removed, so teams consistently reaching for this champion, so it should be pretty obvious to Rogue here. So what do they want to take into the champion? Grabbing the set, still a flex pick, even if we don't have necessary tape of it. And Hans is going to roll the dice again.
He's so determined to make this work. I remember splits where we had to wait like weeks on end, half a split before we got to see the Hans Draven. But he's just pulling it out every single time he gets the opportunity. Makes sense. Aphelios has been hit in the laning phase pretty hard over the last couple patches. But they are just going to grab himself the Aphelios. Tahm Kench trying to get that safety on the bottom side.
Yeah, immediately respecting the fact that you're against a Draven. Now, you're either going to pick up a jungle pick or you're going to have a very safe blind flex pick. If you assume that that's a set top, you could try to go for the Aatrox. I know that Dan Dan and Finn are really comfortable on either side of this matchup.
Ooh. Question is, do you flex the set around? Something else we're going to have to keep our eye on. But last time we saw this matchup, I do believe that Dan Dan pulled very far ahead. But that Kled might indicate a different story. It might just be that support set.
And this would be a trap then laid for Rogue. You show the set. It's actually a support set. It has flexibility. You lure them into a false sense of security to pick up the Aatrox. Everyone has played either side of this matchup, and then boom, Finn pulls it out. The one-trick Kled that has Grievous Wounds built into his kit that has a really good matchup into Aatrox.
Huge engage tool. Dashes right in. Tahm Kench swallows the Aphelios. He thinks everything's fine. And then suddenly, the support set out of nowhere grabs that fat catfish and just dunks him right back into his own team. That's the dream scenario for Rogue I keep seeing in my head, FLICKR.
Yeah, so we'll keep our eyes. If it is going to be Vander's set, it could still technically go to Larson. Hell, for all we know, Larson could pull a Doinby and decide to take the Kled into the mid lane.
I hate when pick bans are like that. I love players like Doinby. I love G2 from last year. But it makes it impossible to know literally anything until the 20 seconds are left in pick ban. Good thing is, bans are coming out. LeBlanc, Gragas, at least limiting some of what we'll see here.
Yeah, again, taking away really strong blind picks like the LeBlanc. We'll see if they actually pinch the Azir. It feels like both teams feel confident letting the Azir go through because both Larson and Febiven can reach for the Zoe, can reach for the Corki to answer into a long-range champion. And then also focusing on the jungle pool. Ooh, makes the Azir even easier for Larson here to grab.
Maybe just trying to set up for the run back on the old scaling matchup in the mid lane. The old Azir Corki.
It would give their composition some of that late game scaling that they need since they are running with like a Draven Kled right now.
Now I see though, Rogue I think most likely to pick their jungle here. Can just go for blind Azir. obviously going to be a solid pick. They've taken the Zoe and the LeBlanc away. I think just expecting Febiven to go for the Corki in response and giving Inspired the luxury of last pick, something I'm not very used to seeing, but given the Gragas and Sejuani are banned away, it does make some sense.
So Draven is really high priority right now for Rogue, I feel, just because outside of the Azir'S and the Kled ultimate, they don't really have reliable engage, and I think that's something that the comp is missing, which is why I really like the Gragas Sejuani bans, because that's something that those two champions get. So maybe they're holding off on just snap grabbing the Jarvan until they can for certain see the jungle matchup and feel comfortable there for Inspired. Because I mean, maybe he gets really confident and tries to run his ult off.
Maybe. I think Jarvan for the opposite side isn't incredible. There's a lot of ways to interrupt the EQ in there. Obviously, the ulti is very good against the Draven, a champion who naturally lacks an escape, but not nearly as good against other champions. Misfits really taking their time on this one. Want something powerful enough early to slow down some of the picks that Rogue have taken out, and it is the Trundle. Okay, I respect it.
I mean, not a lot of options left. Also, a really good dueling and skirmish jungle for the jungle pool kind of left open and available. The thing about Trundle is that he actually has decent gank access onto bot lane, at least when he's played in the LPL. So even though it's like an Aphelios Tahm Kench into Draven set, there, I guess, is that potential that you could try to punish Draven set or step forward. And we said it was going to be an aggressive jungler. I called out the Jarvan. It's instead going to be the Pantheon that Inspired showed in his final week of the LEC.
And to be fair, this is a pick we forgot about completely, because when I asked you, I was like, all right, Frostgurn, and you predicted all the bans for me. What's the first pick going to be when we were prepping behind the scenes? You're like, oh, it's Aphelios or Pantheon. And then we didn't see Pantheon at all, has slipped through the bans, has been invisible up to this point, but we know what this champion can do. We've seen what Jankos has done with it in these early games, especially when there's aggressive lanes for him to play around. So I feel like if you're Misfits right now, you have to be very nervous about this early game.
Well, yeah, you also look at what the bot lane, Draven, set, Pantheon, the top lane, Kled, Pantheon. Like, it's really scary. And the thing is that Rogue seem to only fall apart, at least in this series, when Misfits were able to challenge them, contest them in the lane phase, and start putting them behind. That's how some of the top teams have taken down Rogue. If Rogue, again, get an even map state into mid to late game, that's where they're most comfortable. That's where they're consistently going to be making the right calls. And that's where Rogue fans want to see their team pick up easy wins.
Absolutely do. Let's get right into Game 3. And here we are, right back on to the Rift one more time. Both teams finding their first win of the series over the first two games. That means we're on to the best of three. But Rogue, we're going to cut this one short as they're already getting aggressive here on the level 1, knowing that they're stronger in these early fights. They're looking to assert some dominance here in the jungle.
Yeah, just muscling in. Inspired has the oracles, so we'll see if this is actually where their start point's going to be, if they're just gathering information for Inspired's pathing on where Razork is actually going to start. We've already seen some cheeky attempted level 2 ganks, and I'll say attempted level 2 dives. It didn't go so well the first time around, but we'll check in on Inspired. Because he is on a Pantheon, he does do the Talisman, he's not as reliant on doing kind of buff-to-buff jungle pathing starts. He can start on either Wolves or the Raptor camp or some of these bigger AoE camps and start trying to springboard through his jungle by clearing all of these smaller camps and trying to just be about getting those timers up as quickly as possible rather than being reliant on the big buffs.
See,
and
it looks like it is
the start.
Exactly, as predicted, Frostgurn, it will be the Wolf start here. Set and Draven making their way to the bottom side of the map. They are going to be able to get lane priority here as Denyk and Bvoy have opted to leash instead. So already a small advantage to the bottom side. May not amount to too much quite yet. But we're going to have to see if Razork wants to rear his head there on the bottom side of the map. It might be a bit too early for a Trundle at this stage, given that he has not taken the pillar, but have to see what's going to happen.
And we've seen this jungle path, the one that Inspired is doing, from guys like Jankos and Selfmade. And again, we'll check what he does, but what Jankos likes to do is he takes the smaller camps, so the Wolf camp and the Raptor camp, completely ignores red and blue, and by clearing these timers as quickly as possible, you're maximizing the respawn, so you're farming as quickly as possible and also getting into position for potential dives, which Jankos has done multiple times, like this.
And Kled very good at diving. Obviously, the reset when he demounts on tower aggro could allow them to continue. Razork is running straight to the top lane, though. Looks like he sniffed this one out, but it's just 2 ships passing in the night. Inspired will be spotted. Razork sees him, and that means he has permission to start up the buff, and this will give Razork a small advantage as he's slightly ahead on his 3rd game clear.
Yeah, super good communication there from Dan Dan and Razork. What they probably saw was that Finn was slow pushing or slow stacking a crash into Dan Dan's tower. And again, this isn't a new play that we've seen in the LEC. Multiple teams have done this before with the Pantheon jungle, so Misfits were able to sniff that one out, pull their jungler, Dan Dan disengaged from the tower, and averted disaster. So just sacrificing some CS, but not getting dove.
And it's very, very critical that Dan Dan give Finn that respect, because while Game 1 was very much just like Finn felt very irrelevant, Game 2 was a story of Finn dominance, and now Inspired getting a little bit more aggressive here as Rogue send 3 members down to make sure that they can have security around this Scuttle Crab.
And normally we see this combination with Larson and Inspired's Olaf, but loving the Azir combo where Larson gets like perma mid lane priority and then just allows his jungler to bully in the river and swing out into these side lanes.
And obviously you saw on your screen there some of Finn's very disgusting numbers from the previous game, and I like to see that Inspired is putting some attention on the top side now that this matchup isn't nearly as won in champion select as the Ornn Pantheon was originally.
So good. Double crab. Really nicely done in terms of Rogue's like first 4 minutes. And this is something we talk to other teams. They say that Rogue's like first 6 to 8 minutes is usually very clean, and that can really decide their games. They usually come in, they always have a clear-cut plan. Yeah, they went for the dive. The dive didn't pay off, but Inspired didn't miss a beat. Using wave priority and wave state really well across the map as here's the wrench in the plan, TP.
Big commitments here. Snare's going to come out as well. Dan Dan now off to the side. Pillar has come in. Hansama now needs to run away. Hansama taken out. That's going to be first blood. They're looking to 2. Are they going to donate both to Bvoy? That's the big question. May give one over to Dan Dan, but no. Bvoy going to be the happy benefactor of 2 kills on the bottom side.
And the potential for Trundle to gank bot lane is really strong when he's on blue side because of how you can get the pillar behind them. And of course, it was then helped out from a very deep teleport ward. And we said, Rogue, they're the team that has the plans. They have the plans in training, they've got the plans on the map, but you need to disrupt their plans, and Misfits pay off huge here. With all of the changes to teleports, the cooldowns, the fact that there's more gold into plates, the fact that when you actually manage to hit a tower, melee champions can do more damage to it, means that when you do teleport away from your lane and topside, it has to count. Otherwise, you are punished so much harder than you used to be, and it does pay off for Misfits there.
Yeah, despite the fact that we don't see Dan Dan going for the Ornn, he's still the one making the big team plays. But now Rogue setting up a play of their own. Razork walking right into enemy territory. It's going to be very difficult to kill this Trundle. The Pillar can interrupt a lot of the action if Razork is quick on the trigger here. But Larson coming over as well. Good Pillar, the flash through. They're just going to follow through. Bear trap on a rope. Razork's going to get pulled back, and the rest of them, that's going to be a quick and easy kill for the side of Rogue. Dan Dan can't afford to overstep here, but demounting Finn does mean that the dive threat is basically gone.
And not missing a beat, immediately resetting, recognizing that topside camps were going to be up, and then setting a trap there. Larson also feeling very confident in that trade mid lane, knowing that he has his ultimate, and Febiven probably finger on the flash waiting for it.
Don't want to do the reaction test at this point.
I think Larson was thinking that he doesn't have TP, and instead of trying to go for the kill and trading flash for flash, which probably, like, that's an option you could have. He's like, I have the wave state in a really good spot, and I can actually punish here by immediately chunking him out of lane and then making a massive CS discrepancy. So 39 to 58 you can see right now. And that's just kind of like the epitome of Larson as a player. Like, maybe someone like Perks or even Febiven, if they're the Azir, they go for the insect, they try to trade flash, try to get the kill. But Larson's like, another day. Like, I'm here to win the lane, I'm not here to kill you.
And that advantage is doubled on by the fact that not only is there that CS discrepancy, it's a tier first for Febiven. And while we saw how much damage he could dish out, we heard Ender explain the build from the analyst desk, it still puts it's not the sheen, right? His trading is going to be significantly weaker as a result of this item. While he can spam, he's going to be doing a lot less damage here. So
yeah, it's sacrificing the power curve early for the power curve later on. Was that the charge? Where's Kled?
That was the charge, but I believe Aatrox interrupted it. Now, Larson going in. He was waiting on that ultimate. He is going to use it. He's going to knock him right back. Inspired going to find that one. He can block all the damage coming out from Febiven, but now Dan Dan looking for the 1v1. Finn gets the extra movement speed as long as he chases. He's very close to remounting. Pocket pistol. Not going to get used. We'll use it on the wave. Can clear a few more minions, and here comes the remount. What a fun champion to lane against in Kled. Right back to the dive threat being alive.
At least the skill expression on Kled is better than on some of the champions. Meanwhile, Bvoy and Denyk do manage to tap a plate here, but otherwise the top side of the map is in full control right now for Rogue. They've, since that bot lane teleport gank, have made sure to really punish Razork. Inspired living in his jungle right now and making the most off of Larson's mid lane priority on Azir.
And you'd love to see it. One of the things we praised Rogue for was the fact that they had the strength to play through multiple lanes, that they could go where they wanted to go, and the second bot lane takes a hit, they just shift to playing around topside, and they make everything work out, because now Finn, very comfortable. Larson, very comfortable. Jungle, very difficult now for Razork. Finn just continues to be a nuisance for Dan Dan. Very hard for the Aatrox to all in here on the Kled.
Does need a bit of hand holding. No, there it goes. He'll just, what is it called?
Pocket pistol.
Pocket pistol. Why did I want to say rocket pocket?
I mean, no, yeah.
It sounds so much better, though.
Fine, rocket pocket. It's rocket pocket.
Rocket
it's not
pocket.
a gun he pulls out. It's just a rocket. It's fine. The Skins team, we're generating gold for you here. That's all I'm saying. People would be all about the rocket pocket.
I've got ideas. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Where are we?
All right. I mean, look, it's game 3. Gold is slightly in favor of Rogue, but I feel like the second the game slows down, as we witnessed last game, it's just more and more in Rogue's favor. Now, not all of the scaling picks are there this time around for Rogue, but I just their execution last game was so flawless. I have a hard time doubting it here in game 3.
And nothing's really spiraled out of control outside that initial gank. You know, it's not like that gank went down for a Draven that really makes the most of a snowball. It went into a Felios who, you know, he'll like that one, but it's still going to be quite a bit of time before he really comes online. Well, you can see healthy CS lead. The really aggressive matchups haven't worked out for Hansama and Vander. It felt like they took like the Draven Thresh into the Kalista Taric. They now have the Draven set into the Aphelios Kench, and they can't manage to really crack these 2v2s.
Yeah, it does not get easier if Hansama does not get a bit more golden items under his belt, because that is a very easy champion to pillar off, and there's no Tom Kench to save him. There's no one to bail him out this time around. So that's the only way to save you, is to do a lot of damage, which at this stage of the game probably isn't going to happen.
But who would have thought, like, coming into this matchup that, like, Denyk and Bvoy totally fine holding their own against Hansama and Vander. Like, what you got? Throw some more at us. We've seen the Draven already. Like, next pick.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if Rogue changed their strategy a little bit, because we know Aphelios is a comfort pick. They were willing to give it up here to the side of Misfits to secure some things that they wanted, and while obviously the set flex looked good in draft, we haven't really seen it do a whole lot quite yet. Finn, however, on the top side is quite happy to have that Kled counter pick.
Yeah, now while all that did happen, the Rift Herald went down, obviously over into Rogue, so trading Drake for more plates on Finn here, as this Herald will put them all into his back pocket.
Oh man, is Inspired even going to approach? Nope, that's solo gold. That is the most generous act jungler can do.
Close to now a 2k advantage in favor of Finn. That's some pretty healthy buys.
That's almost as much as last game, and he was playing Renekton Ornn last game. Probably the most one-sided matchup possible.
And you have to wonder if maybe Misfits will start changing up the strategy and secure a stronger 2v2 top jungle. Now, obviously harder to do from blue side than red side, where you can be guaranteed the counter pick. But so far, it didn't work out this time around.
Let's see how many more flex picks they have in the bag. Obviously, the set doing a lot of work for them in this draft. Maybe they've got something else up their sleeve. And now, finally, we see the pressure from top break through to the point where Rogue can send a lot more attention on the bottom side. And this is going to be very difficult. Pantheon ult is up and available.
Get him, Vander.
Kled has the charge as well. Denyk, I believe he already used the Devour. He didn't know that this was coming. They're just going to retreat anyway, though. Rogue. Hesitation there on pulling the trigger. They get the TP out from Dan Dan, and they say that's more than enough for us. And they back away.
Yeah, showing some of that slowed down team fighting, is now we're back to the standard Rogue mid-game, where Larson's going to get kicked out and start hoovering up every available lane, and Rogue would just kind of constantly be shifting around, grabbing CS where they can, and waiting on Inspired to make plays.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good, once again, that they got a TP. It doesn't really cost them much outside of Kled ult, something they're not necessarily hurting to use in the next few minutes, so See if they can capitalize on that more by making a cross-map play. Of course, 3 minutes until the Mountain Drake is up and available. Not necessarily the biggest objective, but everything counts when you get towards those late game stages.
So look at what's happening right now on the map. It's something small, but it starts to add up over time. Again, Larson always finds these windows where he's just like maximizing his farm time. He's always out into his side lane. It doesn't matter if he's Tristana or he's Azir, and he's just hard pushing and gobbling up all of this gold. Now, while this is happening, Misfits are trading Larson off into a side lane for numbers advantage and threatening bot side, but they can't execute on the dive because Rogue are doing so well playing defensive. So as long as Rogue don't die to whatever Misfits are trying to find on the map, if that's a dive on Draven, if that's maybe trying to punish Finn, who's a bit overzealous in the mid lane, then Rogue win because Azir's just getting free gold time.
And yeah, and Larson's late game Azir is definitely not something that you want to deal with. And I'm a bit concerned for Misfits' damage output as we get on later. Yes, they have a Felios Corki, but it's very easy. You see everyone building Ninja Tabby. Yeah, it's magic damage from Corki, still mitigated by the Ninja Tabby. Random's mitigating crit, also going to make that much easier. So if they want to go tanky, it's very easy to shut down most of the damage output that's coming through on this Misfits composition, even if it is slightly split.
It's not the most well-balanced composition. If this was like breakfast, you're missing a key element. You thought you got orange juice and you have like Coca-Cola instead.
Yeah, you got Corki, and that's great, but you picked the only AP champion that's mitigated by Tabbies and Randuin's Omen. So we'll see if they want to go full defensive itemization, what exactly Vander wants to prioritize. I imagine it's Dead Man's Plate, but gotta hope for Misfits that they can find a way to shred some of these targets down as we get later in the game.
Waiting for these teams.
We're chilling, Frosker, and I think this is
Finn and Inspired were looking for a party, but yeah, Misfits are chilling.
Just looking up.
They were looking at that dive like, do we know where everyone is? No, it's fine. Let it go.
One at a time. And it's slow, it's steady, it's controlled. You always have to respect it because if it's League of Legends that wins you a game, it's League of Legends worth playing, but does not always mean that it's the most explosive.
I mean, this is often the turning point in most series. Whoever wins this, I mean, it's like Captain Obvious, like, is at match point. But in teams that have quite young players in a circumstance like we do, where you're playing from home online, you know, like the mental game is also the other endurance test when we get to these best of fives, and that is something to always look at with teams with less experience. And Game 3 probably the most important for that.
Yeah, your back doesn't get any more against the wall than being in an elimination series and having your opponent team at max point. If your mental was ever going to collapse, that was the time. That or when Vander comes up, punches you on the face, and looks to get a fight kicked off, because that's the dunk back down on the Tom Kench. Luckily, Bvoy manages to make it out, but here comes the Pantheon Inspired, leaps in, and Razork can't do anything. He's going to steal a bit of resistances, but that's going to be it for now. Now, Dan Dan looking to turn this one back. Pullback will not come through for Inspired, and Rogue with a clean play on the bottom side.
Yeah, and just no reaction time there from Misfits. Febiven was in base looking for the TP, but it was just over and done with before he even had a moment to react, so he's forced to TP into the mid lane, because meanwhile, yeah, Rogue get all of that, but Larson, again, just chilling, just farming in the mid lane, and the fact that Rogue are constantly able to find these kills or find these pickups, while Larson isn't, you know, trading any of his CS time.
I really like the Hoover analogy, because it just makes me think of it's like Larson's like the soccer mom who's like cleaning up after all the kids. She's like, oh my god, you left your toys out in the bottom lane, you have some minions over down here. Like,
yeah. So Flash Vander, snap grabs them, Inspired's already coming in behind them, and Finn, just for like good measure, is also charging in. Like, if Bvoy didn't think that he was dead as soon as Set flashed, grabbed Tom Kench, as soon as he heard the charge, he's like, yeah, this one's probably over.
and it's especially bad because it's all telegraphed. The Pantheon ult, the Gled charge, but you're either in position to get out or you're not, and you just have to watch yourself slowly but surely die. Bvoy did the best he could, holds on to both his summoner spells, knew that he was dead, so as you said, doesn't want to commit anything else.
What's the record for most CS at 20 minutes?
You know, that's a great question. Marcus, our stats operator working on the day, we can ask him. Although this is the kind of questions that stats team hates. They're like, dude, I have to search through like 8 databases. This is like the worst.
Okay, then I don't actually need... What my main point is that Larson is significantly ahead of the clock right now because he's effectively been farming 2 lanes. Like, Febiven has a lot of CS and he's basically on clock, whereas Larson still comparatively looks like he's smashing him.
This is the kind of game where people are going to look back at Febiven's stats and be like, how did he have a 30 CS deficit? That's terrible. Febiven was getting smashed. It's like, oh, no. Febiven wasn't getting smashed. Larson was getting donated wave after wave after wave. I don't know how many jungle camps he's taken, but this is... The Azir is going to be a nightmare. And he's already got Ludens. Or not Ludens, rather. He's already got the Nashor suits. He's going to be very close to Ludens soon. And Febiven's still building towards Trinity Force. He has not fully stacked that tier, so there's going to be a big difference in relative power.
Yeah, but as you called it, when Yamato and Ender took us through the build path, it's trading early power, which you're against an Azir, so you're fine to scale for really strong late game power with that itemization from Corki as Dan Dan again.
Ooh, the flash out. Don't know if it's going to be enough, though. Bear Trap on the rope. That's going to reduce the healing. The Conqueror's already there. Kled hasn't even reset, and Inspired is just now mitigating that tower aggro. That is a broken dive duo, and Dan Dan is learning it firsthand.
It's not fun. I'm sorry, Dan Dan. Very well executed from Rogue, though. They have clearly practiced this one a lot, and they're going to keep running that exact same play if it pays off. Now, meanwhile, it does mean that the mid-tier tower falls down, so I guess Dan Dan was worth something. But traded 1-for-1 as bot tower also falls.
There you go. 2k gold lead for Rogue, 2.5 as they continue to extend and pull further and further into the lead. Their Baron taking speed will be very rapid as they have basically 5 damage threats on their team at this point in time, one of them being Azir, who shreds through those objectives.
Yep.
Yeah. Here
Sorry,
we go, Frostburn.
I was checking the record, and apparently it's probably held by Froggen, which means that Larson's not going to be close to it.
No. Froggen, the Lord of CS, if nothing else. Well, as Anivia, and now Bvoy doing what he can to hold on to his life. Rogue going to be thwarted there. Bvoy getting a lot of damage down, actually. Well played.
He's trying, though. He took Krugs. He walked to lane, he takes Krugs, and now he's going to farm probably 2 waves here. Then he'll shift down to mid lane. He'll farm those lanes. Like, Larson's going for it. He's going for the sprint.
Man, we should just watch Larson POV for the rest of the game.
You see that mid lane wave as Draven's walking to it? How dare Han Sama thinks that he gets any of that? Larson's like, now I have to overextend. Now I gotta take this Gromp. I can't just walk mid.
You're Draven. If you wanted money, you'd kill people. The farm is for me.
Oh,
Poor
yeah,
Larson.
Febiven, you weren't gonna get that.
He's just a man who wants to farm, you know? Everyone else is here to play League of Legends. He wants to play League of Legends at 30 minutes. He wants to work. He's a WoW player at heart, I bet. You know, he just wants to get his raid gear. He wants to scale up. The rest of this, it's all about just, he wants his 6 items. He wants them to look nice and pretty in his inventory, and then he wants to win the game. That's how he wants to play here.
It is really important, obviously, for how Rogue like to play the game. When we were talking about this match and preparing for it, Dracos, we said Misfits are a team that play the other team. Like, it's see hero, kill hero. Yeah, they come in with game plans. Yeah, they have decent fundamentals. But it really is heavily reliant on winning fights and then advancing the chains. Where a Rogue or a team like Origin that play the map. And so Larson's obsession with CS is really pivotal to that play style because it allows them to set up the map that when they do win those calm, collected, slow team fights, they're able to maximize what they get off the back of it. So while it does look nice in his pocket, it also makes their pressure game really important.
It does. And you can see Misfits getting a little bit impatient here. Throwing down the pillar, trying to catch out Larson. It was a good play, but Larson was patient enough on the dash out to make sure he did not get interrupted there by the pillar. And now, Rogue have 5 members stacked up around this pit. They have a 2k gold advantage. They have pretty much every engage tool in the book up and available for them. Good that they backed up there. Razork kind of sniffed the play coming. He throws down the pillar. If he would have caught 1 or 2 members there, it most certainly would have been a started off fight for Misfits.
So the engage will come. Finn is literally cleaning up this wave, and then he's probably going to charge in. Rogue want this fight.
Rogue ready to go. Candace looking to steal and contest. Inspired's going to steal that one away. That's a nightmare. Dunk down in the middle of the team. Rogue, they're so good at these combos. And here we go. That is a clean start. Finn now on the chase. Bear Trap on a rope going to be more than enough. Dunks some down, and Rogue, that was the thing of beauty.
And it was really only Febiven that got anything good out of that for Misfits. Rogue came in and it looked, I think it looked worse than it was when all was said and done, but that was some big damage and a lot of people shoved around by Azir. Starts out, the Tom Kinch gets dunked into his team, and then everything gets lined up for Larson. He's got the Sand Soldiers in front of him. Misfits know that the fight is over. They need to get the hell out of dodge because Azir is in perfect position to rip through them. And again, it's really only Febiven that feels good coming out of that.
Yeah, we look at the gold. Ooh, Febiven dashed out to stage. We look at the gold now, 9,300. for Finn on the top side, 9,600 for Larson. Poor Hansama does not get a kill, and that absolute mess of a fight, though, in that pit. I mean, so clean from Rogue to find all of those AoE ults, combo them all together, really make it work. And the fact that it started off with Inspired stealing the dragon as well is most certainly insult to injury, as Febiven might need to be scared here. Vander
Doesn't
on the
have
way up.
Valkyrie.
Oh no. Finn just
yeah.
walking down. If he hits the bear trap on a rope, there's nothing he can do. It's connected. Yeah, he's pulled back. He's dead. Finn now on a rampage. 4-0-2. Rogue set up to take the Baron if they want, but here comes the Pantheon. They just want to keep the ball rolling, keep the fight started. Inspired not quite going the right way there. Good retreat coming out from Misfits to hold on for now. Meanwhile, Aatrox on the bottom side split pushing, and Rogue see their opportunity to start the Baron.
And they can shred through this. You already talked about it, Dracos. They have so much damage on all of their members. And Misfits do technically have Razork there, so could potentially look for the steal. Level 10, level 11. Here's the TP. We'll see what they can get done.
These 4 members. Aatrox on the backside, 4k health, getting lower and lower. They don't have the major ults available quite yet on the side of Rogue. Larson can try to re-engage here, but they are just going to retreat.
And Corki
Testing the
TP
waters.
also available, and he spawns in 3 seconds. And Misfits actually do have a mid lane. Oh no, they're teleporting towards the Baron. Oh my god, they're going to burn it.
Oh, they're going to start as well. They know that the opportunity has come through, but Finn has TP. They want to force out Finn's TP. They want to even out the TP advantages.
I don't know about this one.
I don't know about it either, because Finn's going to come in with his ultimate, and he's going to be right on that back line, and things are going to go from bad to worse if they start off optimally. Rogue don't want to continue to do the Baron, though. That's going to be crucial. They just want to look for picks instead. Dan Dan dashing over the wall, and he'll hold on. Rogue, is it your turn?
No,
turn? Misfits took a turn? Is it your turn?
They don't have the health bars. They just want to get back and take care of their wave. So this is a situation where, I mean, it's very bold. Misfits do force Rogue to respond to them. Maybe they're just like gut checking, seeing if Rogue are paying attention. Maybe they get a free Baron out of that. But that's a situation where, you know, Febiven could have used his TP towards the bot lane. He could have used it on the mid lane. Misfits could have rotated towards the mid lane. Like, there could have been different ways that they attacked the map to secure like pressure control over an area rather than just teleporting directly towards the Baron and running into that objective.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that they traded 1-for-1. They get Finn's TP as well, but they were always going to be at a 1 TP disadvantage in that state, and they've just chosen to have 1 TP on the enemy team versus 0 on theirs instead of 2 versus 1, right? So we'll see if it pays off. Maybe they feel like the Kled TP is significantly more valuable than the Corki TP, but for now, it's kind of just an odd series of play overall. I was really hoping for Rogue to go for the 3rd try, and we would just get it back and forth.
I think again, it shows the difference between these teams and kind of like their mentality and their instinct about how they want to play the game. But we are now at a point where Misfits are confident. They got access back into the Baron pit. They've gotten control over the scuttle grab, so they can at least kind of walk away from that area and feel pretty secure that Rogue can't pull anything fishy there, while Larson continues to be an absolute menace. Level 16, because again, it's not just the CS he's picking up, it's all of that experience to Dan Dan's level 13. So this Aatrox isn't going to be a match for Larson. Febiven needs to come down here and take care of it.
And it's also just such a, I feel like a difficult matchup with Aatrox, because it's not only the healing reduction, but also the jousting, the dive through. The fact that you can cast it twice means Dan Dan's really never going to be able to hit the Darkened Blade reliably, outside of maybe that 3rd one. Things going to be difficult, going to be quite miserable, and we'll see if it is, in the end, potentially a death stance to come out, maybe a Maw who wants to mitigate more of this magic damage there for the side of Finn.
And we're now kind of back at this this dance as everyone's kind of neutralized their side lanes, got them set up even. Dragon's about to spawn, and a trap is being laid. Good ward from Rogue in mid lane.
Little death tango coming through here. Febiven desperately wants to use that packet, but it's not a very long uptime.
Spotted by Vander. Vander, of course, looking for the flank and defensive ult out.
Just trying to buy space. They know Vander's not in position. If Febiven had opted to package in there, his whole team would have just watched him die from the sidelines as the Azir ult would have separated them. But now it's going to be the Ocean Drake started off. Misfits looking for their 2nd, trying to stop Soul Point from coming out. But Dan Dan's on the backside, and Kled's just diving right in. Big damage as they're all lined up. Bvoy now trying to fire back. Dunk back down into the enemy backline. Vander trying to buy time, trying to limit what Dan Dan can do. But Hansama's now cashed in. That's going to be big, big money. Razork running for the hills. Larson is out to safety, and Finn chasing down Dan Dan. Pocket pistol over. He's waddling. He's going to get him. He remounts. And now Razork's in
Larson's
trouble.
going to TP.
Oh, Febiven's in trouble. I don't even know if he needs to. They should have this
to
easy.
the Baron.
1 auto, big chunk, clean pickup. And now Razork's going to get taken out as well. Ah, I see what you mean. Larson's going to TP to start the Baron because he's on Rogue. I thought you meant Febiven.
No, Inspired, it ulted to the Baron, and Larson stood on base, waited until he was full health, and then teleported to the Baron. Rogue knew as soon as they won the fight that this was going to be the play, and just cleaned Misfits' clock.
And look, they got the 2-man Baron. They know they're completely uncontested. Now they're going to grab the Ocean Drake as well. 7k gold lead for this team, going to turn into 8. The Baron drops. Another Ocean Drake to follow, going to move them up to Soul Point with triple Ocean. I don't want to say that's it for Misfits, but that's damn close.
And a difference in team fighting, you called it at the start of the fight. Yeah, Dan Dan gets access to a flank potential here to find the side, but that doesn't really mean much. You know, like, the level discrepancy between everyone means that he's not going to do a ton of damage here, and then Larson actually just starts shredding through the front line. Like, he gets to the side, and he kind of goes just absolute beast mode on them. Blows a couple people up, throws down some ridiculous damage, and then Dan Dan is just, like, chased off. He was like this obnoxious little Aatrox that Finn then turned and said, "All right, you're here."
And this is double cash outs for Hans Sama is just the ultimate nightmare. He went from behind his allies to now just matching them item for item. Big money coming in.
And he's now in the state where Draven kind of turns into a poke champion, because it's that. You hit a single axe and you do massive chunks of damage. And so it's not really about, like, the 5v5. Like, obviously Hans Sama has the skill expression that in the 5v5 he'll be able to juggle his axes and output ridiculous DPS. But at this point, like, even if he just hits the single axe and then Larson has the range on Azir, that's the obnoxious part in tandem with Baron that allows them to siege so effectively.
And Frostcar and I have good news and bad news for the
What
Rogue
is
fans
it?
out there. The good news is you're probably going to win this game. The bad news is Larson will not be winning the CS at 20 record anytime soon, because the current record holder in LEC history is Perks at 301, but it was funnel meta. So there's really no beating the record ever again because funnel meta was a thing. So unless we're going to exclude funnel meta, no one's ever going to contest that.
Why must every mid laner bow before Perks? He holds everything!
History just can't, unless we get another funnel meta, no one's ever going to beat that record.
Larson can't wait
Except for
it.
maybe Ooze, but that would have to be international records, right? Rogue breaking open the base quite handily. They're obviously monstrously far ahead. We're waiting potentially for one last desperate gambit here, but oh god, don't think there's any gambits left. I think Misfits are dead. They may not know it yet, but the dot's ticking, and they are going to drop here in a second.
And they need to find a different strategy. They couldn't contest Rogue in the lane phase. Rogue smashed them in the lanes, smashed them into the jungle. Outside of kind of that clever initial teleport gank bottom, it really hasn't been anything for Misfits. This has entirely been in Rogue's control. And again, when it's a controlled, played by the number, the dominoes are set up, they push over, it's going to be Rogue up every single time.
And remember, Rogue 0-5 after the end of that game one. Misfits showing us new things. It suddenly looked like a Misfits revitalized, rebuilt, suddenly with a breath of fresh life. But now, on the opposite side, Rogue turning things around so handedly in games 2 and game 3. It's like they didn't miss a beat. They adapted to what they needed to adapt to, and suddenly Misfits just looked like easy pickings.
And just reminding everyone that it was their consistency, their strong fundamentals that had everyone toting them as the 4th best team. And unfortunately, with how the bracket has shaped up, they've got a lot of ground to run to prove that they're the 4th best team in the LEC, but moving on to match point and taking down Misfits here is one step closer to doing that.
Finn going to demount here, though. Maybe they can burst him down. Buys a bit more time with the stopwatch, but Rogue should just be the victory lap out. Not very good damage, sadly, coming in from that ult on Bvoy. Heavily nerfed, obviously, after the initial one-shot montages.
Well, to the meat grinder known as Azir, Draven.
Ugh. Yeah, no one wants to step forward into that one. At any moment, Finn could come ulting into their line. Luckily, there's a few more seconds on that cooldown, but Finn has the home guard buff, and he's going to walk forward. Denyk's not going to be saving anybody today. Catfish can't eat himself, but Hans Sama going to be happy to have another cash in, a little bit more money in the bank. Not even going to get a chance to spend it, sadly, for him, but Misfits looking a bit out of sorts here in this game. Maybe one last fight could be the difference they need, but the gold is just not in their favor. Rogue are too strong. Every single member a massive threat. Big ult coming in from Larson, though. He has definitely overstayed his welcome. Maybe this is the turning point. Good damage now coming back in. Walking forward, the exhaust goes down. Febiven desperately trying to kill him, but they can't. The meat grinder is just too strong. Too many members of Rogue left standing. They cannot find the kill onto Larson, but that's going to be one more. Bvoy has the healing necessary to get things kicked off. Where's the pillar going to go?
Here he
TP
comes.
now coming in from Rogue. They're looking for the reinforcements. It's going to be one more, but Larson Walking right back in. Misfits holding on. They're not going out of this one quite so easily.
The combined power of Aphelios and Corki at this stage in the game. Stand still, hold their ground, are able to wave clear out of that. They are putting out ridiculous amounts of damage, so you can see that when Misfits play it slower, that they still do have options in their composition that they can fight back. It's just, unfortunately, they're fighting back against a very destroyed map.
I think yes. Earlier when we were critical of Misfits, we're like, hey, they don't always set up their waves properly. Something that Rogue do really well is they set up their waves, so when they win, they kind of doubly win. Now it's not Misfits' fault anymore. Might have been their fault earlier in the game, but their just waves are never going to be in a good state, and their lives might not be either, because here comes the charge. Denyk going to be singled out, bear trap on a rope. Finn going to dash right back out to safety, though, giving Bvoy some due respect for trying to take away Soul Point, and they are going to grab it, denying it and buying themselves a bit more time, but still, Finn constantly pushing forward. Bvoy throwing down turret after turret just to poke down at the opposing team here. But Pantheon coming in, it was a bait. They did eat him out. They're going to try to buy a bit more time, but now Finn can dive right back onto Bvoy. Bvoy desperately trying to retreat, but there's good damage coming in. They can turn it. Now it's the meat grinder turned around. Rogue staying for way too long. The dunk down is coming through, but look at the minions. Look at them pushing in. Rogue are just buying more time because that's going to do it. Hey, if the champions won't work, the minions are going to close it out. Are you kidding me? Misfits, it was one last desperate stand, but no. Getting lower and lower. The respawn? Misfits are pulling back. Rogue, do they just try to end, or do they go for the Baron? What a mess of an end.
Come on, it's Rogue. They're going to go for the Baron. Yeah, look at that pig. We know what type of team Rogue are. G2 would have funneled in there. They would have sprinted towards that Nexus, probably not hit it with the Satchel.
Too soon. Too soon. Corpse is still warm, Frostgrain. Let's
Okay, so here's kind of the cool thing, though. Rogue kind of made not two critical errors. The first error that they made is in attempting to end the game and not doing it appropriately when they used Larson's teleport on the mid lane originally. And that meant that they were behind positioning for setting up for this Drake, which gave Misfits the window to even deny the soul point. Now, at this point, though, Rogue are doing the right thing and maybe diving a little bit too deep, but trying to stall out Misfits, keep them interested while the minions do this type of work onto your screen. But then Misfits minions, at the last second, managed to do them right. And then Rogue, their team, they're like, okay, no, back to the book, get it on script, do Baron, then end game. Like, we got a little bit rowdy the first time around, pulling in Larson's TP, but this time around, we're going to play it slow, we're going to make sure that everything's lined up, and we're going to take the free win.
And as great as that fight looked for Misfits, as you said, it was just uncharacteristic mistakes of Rogue at this point in the game. Misfits are still very much, or should be very much down and out. It will still be a miracle if they come back and find a teamfight win here, but I imagine it will start with them having to concede every single inhibitor to Rogue.
They really are going to play this one slow. They're proccing the minions in every single, like, I guess respecting the damage, again, from Aphelios and Corki at this rate is pretty ridiculous. So we've already seen that Misfits can fight back in these team fights.
Well, they just don't really have any true reliable tank here. Even the set doesn't really have enough resistance to survive. So mispositioning is most certainly lethal.
Last stand.
Razork getting chunked out, though. That's going to be pretty big. Pillar that skill to watch. Hans Sama definitely taking a lot of damage. He does not have the luxury of a Tahm Kench to keep him healthy. Ulti is up for Bvoy.
Can they do it?
They might be able to do it.
Okay. Rogue now, you can almost like feel like, okay guys, wait for the minion waves to crash. Like, we gotta use every single advantage that we have here, which is just choking and suffocating Misfits out in their base by constantly fighting us and the minion waves. But you can see how much respect they're giving to the ridiculous damage that Misfits comp does this late in the game.
Very true. They have to be careful though, because if they overextend, if they overcommit to a fight, it's very easy for Inspired to ult in, for Rogue to ult towards that Nexus and just end the game.
I mean, the thing is that it's kind of like low risk, high reward though. Like, even if Rogue get wiped here, I don't think Misfits can just run it back. I almost think that, like, the later this game goes, the scarier these team fights get. Like, the more often that the the inhibs will respawn and the more chances that Misfits get. Like, definitely backs to the wall, but I actually think that Rogue should gamble here and just try to go for it.
You can't be any more ahead than triple inhibitor and 10k up in the lead. Like, you could argue for 20, but at a certain point, gold doesn't matter.
He wants to buy his last item and teleport back in.
We did say. He loves 6 items. Doesn't even get the Ludens in this game. Just sits on the last chapter. It's the death cap.
Okay, he's teleporting back in mid.
Okay. What did he buy? He didn't buy anything. That's fine. He just wanted a bit more HP, but now the fight's starting off. A good start for Set, but Bvoy untouched on the backside. He's just going to start to shred through. Oh, he's got the Severum. He can do a lot of damage, but Larson just has the side of the Nexus. There's too many members. They can't stop him. Rogue. The desperate gambit pays off, and they close the game out. They don't need to hit the champions when they could just hit the Nexus.
Still, that was a bit... That does show some of the nerves, though. Like, very important game. This is on the cusp. Rogue knew that was their game to lose, but maybe a bit longer than I would have liked. That's nitpicking, but just throwing it out there. Against a Fnatic, a Mad Lions, or a G2, you can't really make those types of indecisive dances.
Definitely true. The good news is the winner here first has to go through OG, so maybe dancing like that could be acceptable. But regardless, I mean, solid game performance overall. We're going to go to a quick break. When we get back, we hear more from the analyst desk.
Wherever they run, I will find them. Take flight.
Nailed them. Last player standing. One enemy remaining.
Revealing area.
Clutch.
No more to oppose us.
Welcome back, everyone, to the LEC Spring Playoffs, where Rogue is on match point versus Misfits, and it really does seem like Rogue has turned it on, and they are evolving in terms of confidence and control in these last two games. But it was all about Finn and his pocket pick, Kled, in that last one. He just completely took off.
I mean, I just love to see Finn playing this champion. We only got it twice out of him during the regular season, but we know he's played it for so many years in solo queue and also last year on the LEC stage. He is the type of guy that will take this champion, knows all the ins and outs of the laning phase, but then can also transition it into leads elsewhere on the map. You saw him teaming up a little bit with Inspired to get inside the enemy jungle. Later, he was using that ultimate to gank down towards the bot lane to try and snowball Hans Draven. It just really is the signature champion for Finn.
I think the key thing with Finn is that he just delivers. We were talking and looking for that star player on Rogue, and it seems like Rogue has found that in Finn. He had the highest amount of key player of the games when you look at, some of the performance in the regular season for, of course, Finn. And I think they found the recipe. They need to continue playing for Finn, continue making sure he's in a good matchup, and Misfits need to pay attention to this because they fell into that trap where they locked in the Aatrox and the Kled came in, set super is something that we know about, and of course, Finn on Kled is going to deliver. Give him that good matchup, Rogue. He's going to take it home for you.
Do you think it was also an oversight that they were able to lock in the Pantheon as well? And then you have huge dive potential with those two, and you can just set up the rest of your team for whatever they want, really?
Yeah, pretty much. It was such a nasty combo there because of the Kled and the other champion, Pantheon, as you mentioned. It makes it so easy. The moment that play into bottom happened, it kind of looked grim, but Aatrox sacrificed so much on that TP play, and then he was behind, and all of a sudden Kled was like, don't worry guys, I'm going to pressure top, and then I'm going to come bottom maybe 5 times for that TP. I'm going to punish him. Don't worry.
Right,
just checking, Ender. You know we have a system so that we don't talk over each other, but you seem to be lost. Did you, are you no longer in our system?
I was in the wrong channel. There we go. I'm back in.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say some great stuff, though, about the combination you were talking about there, Yamato, too, because I did like the idea, right? Because usually when you see the Draven, everyone thinks, oh, just put all your resources around that lane and try to slam. But instead, because they had the double globals there with the Pantheon and the Kled, it was hit top lane first, make sure Finn has that big, juicy advantage, so he's then able to be so much stronger in the fights.
I like the Draven as well, as you mentioned. It's just, this is not where Draven shines. He wants to, honestly, he should play weak side. I feel like Draven only creates a liability because if they just play heavy into top side, whatever AD carry he plays into bottom side is going to deliver just as well, maybe more utility. Draven is alright, it's Hansama's kind of signature pick, but honestly, most of the time when you see a Draven, you want to play into it, you want to make sure that the matchup is super good. Aphelios is probably one of the better AD carries into the Draven because you have the CC, you have the long range. Aphelios is just nasty in general.
Yeah, but of course, there's something to be said for playing your most comfortable champion, and well, we can't take it away from him. They won that last game. I want to take a look at the Dragon fight where Misfits mispositions, but I want to look at it through the lens of they were behind already, right? So they have to make something spectacular happen.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We shouldn't be grouping up inside of the pit against an Azir. This is just not the way the team comps should be playing out from Misfits' side. The fat AoE, when you can't run anywhere, you're going to get completely destroyed. With 2 marksman picks and then like the Tom Kench and the Trundle, this isn't like some sort of like hard engage like team fight comp where you're running face first into the enemy team. You're looking to zone control, kite back a little, absorb the initial engage from the enemy team, but you have to have somewhere to run. But if you literally put your backs against a wall, you are going to lose every single time.
It's also the same problem of last game. This is just, sure they have the Sejuani this time, but the series is the biggest advertisement for Ninja Tabi out there. They have the Corki, Aphelios, Aatrox. There's so much value, and then again, the scaling, Kled, Azir are going to be monsters. It is very hard when Aatrox is going to be behind, especially after play into bottom, when he's going to be behind. Him flanking is honestly just like a fly that you swat away. So it's just not enough pressure in those team fights as we saw, because he had a good position there.
Let's zoom out. We've seen 3 games now and Rogue is on match point. I want to start by Misfits. They're on the back foot and they're up against that match point. We already set the story at the beginning of the day. They are trying to erase that bad memory of 2019 and they've done a great job so far, but a lot of players are in their first LEC playoff. So they are under a lot of pressure. How did they disrupt the control that is coming out from Rogue right now, Yamato?
I feel like they just need to go back to the roost. Misfits' win streak was all about playing mid 2v2 into top side. They need to make sure that it isn't that matchup that Rogue is so comfortable in. Azir Corki, I'm so the resident sleeper over this. I'm falling asleep. I don't want to see it anymore. I want to see an echo into Azir. I want to see some assassins, maybe a Zed or something, you know, that you pick into that Azir. Man, Febiven solo killed FLICKR on this champion. I just want action, because if you play the scaling game, you're not gonna win. Rogue loves this too much. And then play into that top side, because Fit is the super carry. Make sure that Dan Dan has a good matchup, play for it, and show what you guys are strong at.
Also, can we please just put Denyk on something that's not a Tom Kench? Like, this guy's a playmaker, he can make plays, he can make stuff happen, and I want to see that again, because as you were saying, when they play through mid lane first, like, so much of that is going to be coming from Denyk in the bottom lane, and how he can go and influence the rest of the map. So I think sort of a 180 here for the ideas that Misfits have gone into the last two games in terms of drafts has been, will be a really good sign for them.
Okay, that's for Misfits. They need to mix it up and then boil it down for me. Rogue, who are now on the cusp of doing as good as they did last time around when they got to round 2 of playoffs. And I think considering what we've called out at them being a bit of hot and cold in the spring split would be a great success. What do they need to do to keep the ship steering in this direction and close out this series?
Honestly, for me, it's just continue doing what's working. Whenever you're in these situations where you get to scale, Larson gets to play his farming game, get to those items. They have a simple early game plan, play around Finn. It seems to transition very smoothly to those points where they excel, because Misfits tend to struggle around those Drake fights, as we saw, around those Baron fights, and Rogue can just clinch it home if they manage to survive the early game with some kind of pressure through top.
All right, let's see what happens. I do think that we have another professional look in. My experts are clearly not smart enough as deemed by production, and Lore is standing by with SK's Gen X to talk about how Misfits can stay in the series.
Thanks, Shox, and thank you, Gen X, for joining me to talk about this series. I'm sorry for bothering you during your break and vacation. I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. No problem.
We saw also about this series, we saw a very dominant performance from Misfits in game 1, and with the draft adjustments Rogue made since then, I think they look even stronger and in control. So how do you explain such a big difference compared to game 1?
So basically, I think this series feels like it's mostly in Rogue hands. In the first game, they drafted an early game comp, and they failed the plays. Like Inspired went for an early bot dive after already one camp, and it failed, and then the next play failed. So Misfits got ahead of the plays that Rogue made, and then in the second game they went for a team
more
comp
scaling,
that's more fitting to their style. Like they really like to scale. So Misfits also went in on this. Like Misfits is building compositions with that they want to get ahead early, kinda, but they are not really doing it, so yeah,
not playing on their strength maybe, and Rogue chose to play more maybe safer compositions. But one tendency I see from the two teams is the fact that since the beginning of the series we saw a lot of prio unlocking bot lane and top lane in first rotations from both teams, leaving the mid jungle duo after the second ban phase. How do you explain that?
I think it comes down mostly to comfort picks, that like Misfits wants to get like a pick early, so then will be fine. And then Rogue is like, okay, yeah, we can just counter that, or they just pick Renekton to play for top. And this is also something that's trending through the games right now, is that they're just picking early top lane and early bot lane, because bot lane matchups are not really that volatile, so no matter what, you will be kind of fine. And top lane matchups, if you play Renekton into an Ornn, for example, you will get huge CS leads, as we could see Finn doing it in the second game. And what Rogue is doing is that they are playing for top lane, while they're kind of giving up on bot lane. And the reason why they're winning with this, and Misfits is losing, is because Rogue is doing permanent top plays again and again and again to get Finn ahead, and then Finn helps the map. And Misfits is maybe doing 1 or 2 bot lane plays, but that's not enough to break, for example, their tower and rotate with bot lane to top lane to change, like, to get, like, control of the pace of the game. So Rogue is doing a better job at snowballing their win conditions in draft, I think.
Okay, so playing better through the draft they have. This is match points here for Misfits, actually. And I mean, if they lose this one, they're out of playoffs at all. So they will be playing from blue side again here. What do we need to do when do we need to see from them to bounce back in this series, if they can? Do you think they can?
Yeah, I think they can, but they need to use like either two things they can choose if they want to play for top as well, to just match Rogue with playing for top lane, or what I think they should do, because like Febiven is one of their carry players in my opinion, they should try to get a good matchup in mid lane, not Corki Azir, because this is also Larson's almost his best matchup, I would say. Like they should get an aggressive mid lane matchup, maybe LeBlanc, maybe, I don't know, can be anything, and then just play through mid lane, and then either into top or bot lanes, so they get the control of the game.
Okay.
Because if the game goes slow style again, then I think Rogue will take it 3-1.
Okay, find another strength within the lineup. We'll see how Misfits can bounce back from this. For now, Rogue is 2-1 in this series. Janax, thank you so much for joining me and giving me all these insights about the game. I hope you'll be joining us next time. And for now, we're going to take a 3-minute break, and coming back, we'll be ready for Game 4.